Hi everyone, welcome to Morning Matcha. Today's guest is Heather Culp, who is the co-founder of Mercado Sagrado. And I'm going to let her tell us a little bit more about what Mercado Sagrado is. I know that it's hard for me to explain because it's kind of like a festival, but a market, but just such a beautiful, sacred experience. And so I'd love to hear more about it from you.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. I
Mhm.
love what you're doing, and
Thank you.
yeah. So it's a bit hard even for me to explain. Sometimes it's a bit of like my Gemini essence to just kind of like have everything under one umbrella that
I'm a
I'm
Gemini
passionate.
too, so I
Yes,
totally get it
so
because we're doing so many things. Yeah.
exactly. It's like yeah. So could go into more about that later, but yeah, in essence, I try to just sum it up as a creative and healing arts fair,
Hmm.
and kind of it's become more of a platform. So we have kind of our flagship annual event that we just had our sixth annual, and then we are also doing like smaller community events, and then we did a pop-up in Big Sur. We just kind of made our first short film. So in a way, just kind of think of it as this platform where we can grow and continue to do perhaps more media and connectivity online, but also really always kind of our mainstay is getting people in touch and in community in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, six. That's a lot. I think I went to my first one back in 2015, maybe,
Okay.
up in the canyon still. But getting a piece of land and producing an event like this is huge. I mean, like, it's not the same as renting out a venue and knowing where everyone's going to the bathroom and where everyone's going to, go and whatever. They're going to like throw their trash away, all sorts of things that you have to figure out. So I'm curious, how did you manage all that and how for your first event? And obviously it's so beautiful and so special to be out on raw land, but there's so many logistics that go into it. So what
Yeah.
inspired you to start it? And, what were the early days like?
Oh man. It's one of those things where I'm sure you probably have this too, where you look back on your life and you're like, wow, everything I did sort of has funneled into this thing that feels like the thing I'm supposed to be doing. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's like so many threads I could pull to how it sort of was birthed. But kind of long story short, had been living in New York for like 7 years, left New York, just kind of really needing more nature, and went and lived in an earthship in Taos, New Mexico on a mountain, and kind of created just my own residency. And now I see it as kind of just I needed to just take a minute and ground out and figure out what I was doing with my life and career. And there had been things I'd done in the art world and with the photographer also, and that I was so inspired by, but then ultimately what I've been doing with my career just didn't feel fully inspiring. So I
Yeah.
felt a bit lost and was super happy to be in nature, but didn't have an income and just didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so just kind of pulled some of those threads and was just doing a lot of research. I'm a Gemini. So I'm like kind of obsessed and passionate about like so many things.
Yeah.
And I'd have friends
Same.
along the way be like, what are you doing with all these books and this information? Are you gonna make art? Like you
Yeah.
gotta do something with it. It's like, oh, really cool, but it's not really going anywhere. So then when I realized like, okay, Taos is amazing, but I was like hiking. We were hiking into the house in the winter. I mean, it was such a deep nature existence, like without like an income and without kind of a purpose there.
How did you live there? It's-
It was so dreamy. So I'd sold tons of stuff, like all my vintage furniture when I left New York, and had a bit of savings. And then my boyfriend at the time like started working for like the local music venue in the pub, and so I got like a job at the ski valley. But it was kind of just to like
to
we were there and
do
to
some,
integrate. Yeah, because
yeah.
I had a little, just you didn't need much money there. You just kind of
Yeah.
had enough to like buy healthy food or whatever.
Yeah.
And a friend had owned the earthship, so we were, it was like almost like more of an exchange to take care of it.
Oh, cool.
So it was
But you would
amazing.
hike to the place.
Yes.
Wow.
In the winter, it
Yeah.
was a crazy four-wheel drive off-road road it was terrifying to drive even when there wasn't weather. And I was really proud of myself because I got really good at it. And so that was a whole adventure in itself and just learning to live off the grid. But then once it snowed, yeah, you actually had to hike in. So we had to like make sure we had stuff stored there. And then we would just hike like other provisions in.
Essentials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just
Cool.
became this like meditation of like, okay, well, you're not rushing anywhere. So you're hiking up the hill in the winter, and that's just a beautiful thing you get to do every day. And
That's
so,
really cool.
yeah, so it was such a process of like slowing down after living in New York and just through that.
Needed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so needed. And I started like more serious meditation practice then too. So I think without being fully aware of it, it was just a way for me to like get really dive deep with myself and kind of unravel the busyness of the city of like what you're supposed to be doing and kind of
Wow.
get in touch with like my passions again.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
wonderful. It's so great to take time and really tap into what it is, especially like you said, being a Gemini. And I definitely experienced that. I want to do everything and I
Yeah.
love everything. And then that was my experience too. I wanted to learn everything and then finally was able to carve how I was going to bring them together. But it really
Yes.
does require taking some time to yourself
Yeah.
and letting go of what other people are saying or just like you said the busyness of the world in general.
Because
I-
I feel like when you're that kind of, I can see that in what you do too. But when
yeah,
you're that kind of person, no one knows
no
how
one
to
gets
tell
it.
you what to do because
No.
there's not really anything else like it, like what you're doing too,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
you did, because I did, when I was in Taos, I did like a herbal medicine
Yeah.
apprenticeship, and it was like, does this, what I want to do? But
I know, but
yeah,
then it's like, no, I don't want to do that. I just like learning about that and
yeah,
knowing that so then I can, because now obviously it helps you figure out who's the right person to bring into
yes,
Mercado, who are like legit people that know what they're talking
totally.
about. It really is important for you to have that experience, that
Yep.
education to be able to base, so that it's not just someone just randomly talking about it,
Hmm.
not knowing anything. It's important because you're
Totally.
a
Hmm.
credible source and you're curating it and people
Hmm.
trust you and that's why they're coming. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Like I would imagine kind of how you have these really intimate, like along the way without it not work. You're just passionate about it. So you have all these different relationships with different, like for me, yeah, like healers or um, teachers, or even when I lived in New York and I was into all this kind of stuff that's now under the umbrella of Mercado Sagrado, I was more on my own journey with it. So I'd go to like Long Island to go meet this woman who brought this, you know, one of the 13 crystal skulls so that you could go
Wow.
and meditate with it.
Yeah.
And she did a talk about it. And I'd be like the youngest person there,
Yeah.
and none of my friends wanted to go do that weird stuff. So I just had always, been kind of archiving these people and experiences or podcasts or like Coast to Coast AM, trippy people or just all kinds of stuff. And so then when I did land in Topanga after the mountain in Taos, which just kind of felt like a bridge place.
Yeah, perfect.
Like,
Because you're
okay,
in LA, you're kind
yeah,
of in the city, but then you're
hmm
out of all the busyness.
exactly. So it was like, wow, I kind of looked for a place like that in New York and I just couldn't find it. And then that emerged as that kind of zone. And so just all of these things were still floating in my mind. I'd kind of been thinking of something, a little bit like Mercado Sagrado without knowing what it was meant to be. And then I met Carly Jo Morgan, who,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, she was like, she'd been going kind of a similar path. So she moved to upstate New York, then she moved to Joshua Tree, and then she landed in like this bridge Topanga place too.
Yeah.
And we both just were like instant, besties and had the best time but it was quite isolating there. So we had our very nature-based lives and our friendship, but we'd be trying to get our friends over there from the east side and trying to just kind of figure out how to like create more community there. And thus, when we just in casual conversation, the idea came up, and Carly is so good she's just such a good instigator. Like can be such a perfectionist and overthink
Yeah.
things to death.
Yeah.
And she's
Let's
really
do
good at
it.
just do it. Like, don't think about it too much. And so
Yeah.
that was really like the gift of like our early partnership and just getting it off the ground without worrying about like all the details you're talking about. Like we didn't
Exactly.
even know like where are we going to do this, it just kind of the passion, and then we just step by step kind of figured it out in a kind of a messy way, but
It's so
yeah.
perfect. That's the way to do it. I really think, especially with me, it's the same. You just get so caught up in your head, and if you want to launch something or do whatever, you think it
Hmm.
has to be perfect, but then you'll never do it, and it's never the right it's never going to be the perfect time or perfect
No.
opportunity. And you just have to learn from your experience.
Yeah.
And then you'll learn like load in, load out, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
how you do it.
Yeah, and you
It's a
just get
lot.
better, and then
Yeah.
along the way you're like, "Oh, whoa, yeah, didn't think about that. Now,
Yeah.
now we know." But like, yeah, it's never perfect, and everybody learns that way. And you just it's like process for me of just being more gentle with myself, of like not having things be perfect, and then also the thing you're doing, becomes its own like it has its own personality, and so at some point it's sort of steering the
You.
ship too and
Yeah.
telling you what it wants, and you're like, well, I kind of thought we were going to go over here, but okay, we're not, we're kind of doing this. And it's like a mitigation of like all of these like
Isn't
different
that
things.
interesting how
Yeah.
a business, like, I mean, it's its own entity. So that's why they're LLC. That's why they're corporations,
Yeah.
because they are their own thing and they are their
Hmm.
own ecosystem and they do need their, yeah, they just have their own agenda and we're just here to kind of assist. And it's beautiful. It's
Hmm.
really cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, you started with Carly Jo Morgan, and
Hmm.
then is it now just you or is it both of you still?
So around after the second event, Carly just had a baby. Really, the first one. We did the first one on her land in Topanga as an experiment, and went really well. And she, was at the event with her newborn, which
Oh,
was really crazy
yeah.
too. And so after year two, it was like, whoa, it was very intense. And I come from a photography background too, so I can handle kind of the stress of production in a way. I've been used to dealing with that.
Yeah.
And it was a lot for her. So she was just feeling like it was time for her to kind of get back to doing her art and whatnot. And so it took a minute to kind of figure out what would happen in that dissolution. But I kind of panicked for a minute because I was like, wow, I don't want to do this on my own. Like I love the
Yeah.
collaborative aspects of it, and it's a lot. And I'd kind of been a photographer solo for so long, and that was part of, I think, wanting to step out of that, is I felt isolated.
Yeah.
So I have a friend who is a producer, and he was just like, you need to find the right producer. Like
Yeah.
that'll, and I was like, wow, you're right. He kind of spelled it out for me. And I was like, okay. So, and then a friend of mine who's
Is
an
that
intuitive.
Mel or?
Well, that's who ended up
Oh,
coming
okay.
in. So
Okay.
it's a film producer we actually just now worked on a project with too, which I can get to later. But he just kind of saw it in this more structural way, like Mel did. So, and then an intuitive that I'm close with was like, just write down a list of like what,
Qualities.
yeah, the
Yeah.
qualities of like who would be the dream person to be working with. And so I did that, and it really felt, it's like such a magical just gift from the universe that
Hmm.
Mel showed up, because even on the list, she was like, well, it kind of needs to be somebody who lives on the mountain. And I just felt like, oh, yeah, right. That's not going to happen. Like, nobody lives on the mountain. But I met Mel, and she lived on the same ridge, just a little down. But
Wow.
she's Australian too. So for so many reasons, it was kind of just amazing that this person who just felt so right was like accessible and there and interested, and
Hmm.
also had, was recently kind of recently found a conscious city guide. So there was just so many layers, which it
Hmm.
felt just kind of perfect. So she came in first kind of in a bit more from a way as a producer, and then it was really clear after like the first year and then even the second year that it was just the perfect fit. And so she's come on as a formal partner, and is just, yeah,
That's so
a huge part of
exciting.
it. Yeah.
Especially just, finding people that are in alignment and manifesting that
Yeah.
really.
I
Super cool.
Totally. It's like a huge lesson in me, and like, okay, just don't go into the panic mode. Just ground, and like just kind of dream about that, what you want that to look like, and you just really never know what's
Yeah.
gonna show up. Yeah.
So, going back to just Mercado in general and just growing it, I mean, now you guys have Big Sur, you did the pop up there. You now have this beautiful platform where you can share about people that are all over the world, really, that come from all
Hmm.
over the world to come to Mercado, but then just share their art or whatever it is. So, how do you see Mercado growing?
Oh
And what do you,
man.
yeah, I know it's hard. It's a tough
It is
question.
because it's
Yeah.
like that. It's a bit of a bridge point for us too. Of like, wow, what do we want it to be? And I think part of the dream is doing things in other places. And Big Sur was such a gift because it's such a kind of energetic alignment, like a place that is such a dream place for us, and has so much amazing nature, and then so much creativity and whatnot. So I do think it's kind of figuring out what it wants to be, or how it could unfold in different places like that are calling to us. And part of the message I'm kind of getting about that is like that the places kind of come to us. So we kind of started to work on New York, but we couldn't quite figure out
Yeah.
the location, and it was kind of felt like, okay, just put that on hold for
Aside
a
for
minute
now,
because
yeah.
like the right places they're just gonna arise.
I know New York would be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if it's a history there.
Vermont even,
Mhm.
or yeah, Oregon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of have some things that we're talking about and some actually specific locations we're looking at in a couple of different places.
Where?
Once on an island
Oh my gosh,
and then Mel
fun.
of course she's Australian, so that's a conversation too. And then
That's
perhaps just north in
exciting.
California.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So
Got it. An
those are
island,
dreams.
somewhere you
Like
spend a
that's
lot
so
of
I mean,
time
oh,
in.
Hawaii, yeah.
That's so awesome. I love Hawaii so much. I think that it's definitely would just do so well there. It's such a good excuse
Mhm.
to go on a trip.
Right, like, we all love it, and now I have this intimate relationship with this place, and it's so special, and there's just such an energetic of, reverence for the land there that I think is part of why we're doing it as nature is to reconnect people
Exactly.
with that, and it's like the culture
That would be
is
really
embedded on
powerful,
that. Yeah, so
especially with what's going on right now with yeah.
totally.
And how's
Yeah.
that going?
It's really amazing. We attempted to present a conversation about that at the event, and with all that's happening there, one of the elders we reached out to, she's just not traveling now, and then we talked to another person, and they're just so busy. It kind of felt like too much to
Mhm.
do that right now, but would love to host that conversation because I think it's so important. I did go and visit the Mono, and it's the most beautiful display of um, activism that I've ever
Yeah.
experienced. Super powerful, I think, because it feels so grounded in aloha and in the Hawaiian culture that I didn't feel the polarity of or the dissidence that I've felt from so many other movements. The
Mhm.
elders there are really holding down that frequency,
Wow.
and that's what it's all about. Is
Will
you
you
know
share a little bit about it for people that may be listening or watching that don't know?
Yeah. Well, they are attempting to build a really big observatory on Mauna Kea, which is actually the largest mountain in the world, in on the Big Island. And um,
And who's doing this? The
I,
government or
it's
private?
like quasi government, private, and I
Mhm.
don't want to get it wrong, so I don't want to speak too specifically because I probably won't say it correctly, but yeah, it's that, and there are already so many structures up there, and there's such a huge military presence there already.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, Hawaii just really,
Yeah, in general, yeah.
yeah, it's just so, there's just a lot of pain and just,
And
things that
it's
happen.
recent. That's
Yeah,
what's so crazy
right.
and people don't
hmm
realize. I
People
mean,
don't
we're
realize.
continuing to
Yep,
do this over and
exactly.
over again.
Yeah, it's horrible. So it's that, and the indigenous culture there, and the Hawaii, and really most Hawaiians are just like it's enough. It's just let's just stop and have a real conversation about this. And I just want to support them in their mission, and they, like I said, they're really articulating it in such a beautiful way, grounded in love. When you go up there, they have ceremony every day, and they have
Wow.
Hawaiian culture classes, and they're really welcoming to everybody. So it's
Wow.
just like really, really beautiful. And I think the message for the greater world is like there can be these complexities, but we can talk about them with love and respect for one another and not, go into that kind of polarization of, or that frequency, we can stay in that love frequency. So that's just the takeaway from me and experience of that was pretty profound.
Mhm. That's incredible. I think it'd be really cool to have a mercado of some sort on Hawaii and give people the opportunity to come support in that sense too, their
hmm
message and what they're doing.
Totally.
That's
Yeah. So
exciting.
so that, and then just other than that, we did our first short film this year, which
Yeah, what was that about? And
California Stories. And it's really just something, since I have a photography background, I've just always been so passionate about film and sharing stories in that way. Um, and it's something we'd love to see, how that could continue. And that was,
how long was that?
we did a series of shorts, and then the final film was about 15 minutes. And it was sharing the story of Amber Lee, who is Plant as Compass,
Mhm.
and
Oh, yeah. Oh, how special.
she is like
She's
just
so sweet.
she is. She's just so, and actually, it's so funny. There, how this works. I'm sure with your too. She's from Hawaii, so
Oh,
we've
she
we've
is.
spent time there, and yeah. So there's just so many beautiful synchronicities with just my life and just her and what she's offering with her healing arts and her reverence for the land and everything. So she was one of the people, and then also John Dennis of Sam Roberts, who's based in Ojai, and just a very special person. And he makes so many magical things. He shapes his hats in the Ojai River, and
Oh,
just is a
wow.
totally different kind of character.
Yeah.
He's kind of like the dude of present day, and has
Yeah.
a lot. But he's really offers a lot of guidance and help to other artists,
Mhm.
and to me just as a friend, and is really special. And really, it's about just the project is about sharing people like living their dreams and kind of what they did to get there and
That's
their
really
story.
cool.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
yeah, had a prenatal massage by her before I had my
amazing.
son, and that sounds so great with the hat too, because just living your passion and
Mhm.
offering your art gives other people permission to,
Yes, yeah.
follow their dreams, and then that creates a happier world, and people who are kind like are less likely to have road rage. I mean, everything is just like
Exactly.
it's a ripple effect, and so having that in a film, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's like what I feel like yeah, we're both kind of doing just in a way just, being inspired myself and
Mhm.
bringing in activities and people that are expansive and then just wanting to, show other people or that yeah, you can do that weird thing that you might be into and maybe it's a secret you're holding and that you're afraid it's scary or whatever, but like
Mhm.
that most of the people we look to had their own path to get there that might not have, it might it not have been that easy, but
Mhm.
they figured it out, followed their dream, and got to this place where they're much more expanded and happy, and regardless of all those complexities. So yeah, just wanting to inspire people to be in more in their authentic path, whatever that is. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me too, I really believe that if you there's so many people that don't have the opportunity to do that, that if
Yeah.
you have the opportunity, you really should follow that and follow your intuition um and really go after it, because that's not something that's offered to everyone. And along those lines, I wanted to share or chat a little bit about I was on your Instagram last night, on Mercado's Instagram. Because I mean, we were there this year. It was so fun. I
Your
loved it.
space was
Thank you for
so
having
yeah,
us.
your space was so
Thank
beautiful. I'm so
you.
glad you guys could
Yeah,
be
it was
there.
really fun. I mean, I've been going for the last few years, and so just being a vendor was really special. So thank you. But I didn't even know that there was, you guys had mentioned something about your ticket prices. And I didn't know that that was even a thing. Like, I didn't hear about that, but y-
Mhm.
I just thought that it was so beautifully addressed. And I thought maybe we could touch on that a little bit, or what happened. Because I know that it's just such a fine line to keep things accessible and then
Yeah.
also not lose money. And
Yeah.
you're putting on such a big production. Like, it's huge. And from, like you said, the
Mhm.
programming, the speakers, the space, the just figuring out logistics, the manpower that it takes to create something like this, and still hoping that you can honor what people can pay and attend
Mhm.
something like this. So, yeah, I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. If you feel comfortable, I
Yeah.
know it's kind of on
No,
the spot,
no,
but
totally. I'll be as yeah transparent as transparent as I can. I mean, that's kind of, I mean, that's why we wanted to show, to talk about it that way and just address it. And I mean, there's like so many things we could talk about within that sort of larger conversation. And I think, part of it, and I'll say this, which we didn't address, that I just feel really passionate about, and I think sometimes isn't always, I don't know, addressed, is that I think that when you're creating a platform, or a magazine or media, I come from a bit, of the art world background and photography background. And just part of my dissatisfaction with that industry was realizing, okay, so if the pinnacle of my career would be potentially, a pharmaceutical job or other jobs that pay really well and be really kind of luxury, but didn't feel like to me that they were contributing what I'd want to the world I want to live
Hmm.
in. But having that skill and kind of, of kind of just like showcasing beauty or just kind of idealism and what to do with that essentially. And so when we're creating these kind of like media venues or things like that, anything that we're elevating, other people are looking to. So if we're putting, moon juice, I love using an example because they're such a bridge because it's such a like healthful product. And but it's also sort of a really like a bridge product. So basically like having that stuff up there instead of like other food products that are maybe GMO or
Yeah.
things that we don't find as high, value or as an alignment, being able to present those and having those get a lot of attention, there starts to become like a trickle down effect in culture. So I feel like it's so good to have, accessibility for
Yeah.
everybody, but there's also in our culture, we're such a media influenced culture. It's also important to be promoting things that are going to have that trickle down effect as well.
Yeah, you're right. Like
Yeah.
it's familiar and
Yeah.
brings kind
Yeah.
of draws in, and
Yeah.
then yeah, you can show the rest.
Yeah, like if
Yeah.
certain celebrities, I won't be specific, start talking about how they've found, this new way of eating. I mean, that can affect things like that can affect such a sea change in our culture, things like, you know, GMOs not being in certain products in Europe, but then in our country they are. Stuff like that can really
Yeah.
shift from just some things happening in our culture where certain things are elevated in media. So anyway, I don't feel like that was the answer to your question, but with regard to the ticket prices too, we're trying to basically create a programming and offer things that we find to be really really valuable, but then figure out, yeah, how do we make that accessible and feel good about the price, but yeah, basically also make it viable. And it is complicated.
It's so complicated.
And it's something personally that I'll admit I really struggle with and I'm working on myself
Well,
with.
and as the founder, right? How do you say, well, so, because most artists, I think, end up not valuing their time.
Yes.
And then
Mhm.
that you also want to feel valued yourself.
Mhm.
So I don't know, it's just such a difficult topic uh, to approach in general. And we're finding that for ourselves with our
Yeah.
markets.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, I'm not doing markets right now, but with our ongoing event series,
Mhm.
Unwell,
Mhm.
as it's all centered around this idea of like wellness burnout and how wellness is turning into this, multi-billion dollar, maybe trillion dollars industry. But again, it's not for the most part. A lot of the products, a lot of the things aren't accessible. How can we talk about it in a way where it's not product based, but it's mental health based and emotional based and
Totally.
intuition based, but then offer the same sort of type of platform that people are used to,
Mhm.
like coming to events and having lunch and having breakfast, having these things, but still being able to make a profit so that we can continue our business, but
Yeah.
then making it accessible. I mean, it's really difficult. So we've
It
been
is.
going through what price point feels right. And sometimes, people aren't happy with that or, cause it's also, it's, I forget the word, but whatever. It's accessible means different things to
It does,
people, right?
totally. And that's kind of what I was saying with like there's a value, you know, there's a value to there's so many things that we can value and also teach people about. So we also like to have people speak about things like just simply going in the sun, grounding with the earth and the
Yeah.
earth's frequency. You could also purchase the amp coil device. We've partnered up with them before, and that can be real. That's a whole other conversation, but that's an amazing healing technology. However, there are also so many things
That
that
are
are
free.
free,
Yeah.
and we love those things. But it's also fun to learn about
Have
the
the
gadgets,
other
and then
things.
sometimes those things might help a certain kind of person with maybe a certain illness or whatever. But
Exactly.
but there
Yeah.
really are so many different things, and so we love having talks about herbal medicine and how to make or do things at home. Do it
DIY
basically with
stuff.
no
Yeah.
money. And then also,
Have sun potion.
yeah, have sun potion
Yeah.
because sun potion is also so special. And I think that also the products I find really personally just valuable in the sense I was saying that there's the trickle down effect, because somebody who's really coming from that deep Western medical maybe establishment that we've been is so embedded in our culture, but it's not working for them. Maybe it's breaking down, but they're looking for answers. Maybe they come and they go, well, they hear Nitsa speak or something, and they're like, wow, that sounds really like easy. I could try that. It can do that. It's a bit of like a bridge to
Mhm.
really a whole other way of living in the
Yeah.
world. And so some of those things are so great for people that are trying to, figure it out,
Open their
but they're
mind.
not ready to, go really deep and maybe, nude sunbathing and making
Yeah.
wildcrafting their own herbal medicines yet. I mean,
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe they get there through that path, but it's also just accessible.
I
So I
love
think it's
that.
super important. Yeah, and then to the ticket thing, we also just want to make sure that we're compensating everybody who is, taking part and coming from an artist background myself and having my own struggles with valuing myself and my work in my hand. I know that it doesn't feel good when somebody says, "Oh, we want you to do this really cool thing, but here, just do it for exposure," because
Yeah.
ultimately you're paying for it yourself then, because in
Your
time
time,
and money to do, maybe to build your
platform.
yeah, whatever. So it's really important to us, and Mel's so great, with this too. And we have a lot of talks about how best to do this and make sure that there's an exchange with everyone and everyone
Mhm.
is compensated. And then also just getting honest about like the actual hard costs and where you can't go any, you can't lower your ticket price or you won't be able to do it. And
Exactly.
like what you're doing is so valuable too. It's like we want you to the community
Continue.
wants you, because they don't want you to stop, but it's easy to kind of,
Criticize and
yeah, but like when you do it, you know that there's a lot that goes into it.
so much. So, yeah, I'm super inspired by what you guys are doing. I'm really excited to see how you use the platform going forward with like just more, because I'm sure people go to Mercado and they're like, what else? What else can we do to, stay up to date and learn more instead of just this once a year type
Yeah.
of event? Now there's opportunity to, oh, like I've always wanted to go travel to Big Sur. I've always wanted to go to upstate New York, but I've never gone there. I mean, I have, but like I'd love to go and be part of this community and then explore that area. And so it's just really great if that all that happens and the media stuff. It's really exciting. So
Thank you.
thank you for living in your passion and going after your dream and not letting and for just not letting other people have too big of an impact on like just what are you doing, why are you all over the place, and getting into your
Thank
head and
you.
just kind of trusting your intuition. Thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you, and thanks for saying that. I mean, you always need to hear that too,
Yeah,
because yeah.
it's important.
So thank you.